Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Alrighty, righty, righty. I got another one here for you this afternoon, this late in this evening, well, late afternoon. Okay, what time is it anyway? What time is it? It's 6 o'clock. It's late. It's early in the evening, in the afternoon. Okay, because it's almost coming to an end of the day. But we want to talk about Bernie Sanders. Sanders. Okay. This elderly man been in politics for decades. I'm talking about decades. Before I was even born. And these are the things that President Trump is trying to stop for people staying longer than they should in those seats. And these are the people who's been sitting around with their Marxist, socialist, communist ideologies and trying to push these things on our children. These are the wicked people who are sitting in power. Now, in the Bible, it teaches us about wickedness in high places. This is what you call the wickedness in high places. They sitting in Congress and in your courthouse, and they sitting in your police department. They sitting in places basically where these people have an advantage in society, and whatever they pick out there to put out there for people to do, that's what they do. And these are the people they keep around in Congress who are out here spreading this type of ideology and this type of mindset to our young people, because our young people are young. They think they're coming into a new world, and they thinking they changing something. Social change. It's called social change. They finding themselves in the world challenging things, challenging, laws, challenging boundaries. This is what young adults are doing. They growing out in the world, and they want to make a difference. And you wanted to make a difference as well when you was a child. If you could remember a child's, well, those of us that had a dream. Some of us said, "Oh, I want to be a veterinarian." You loved animals. You walked in your you walked in your gift, and something that you really wanted to do. Okay, it was in it was your passion. It was in your heart. You wanted to be a veterinarian. You realized that from a little girl. And I know one thing about me. What can I remember? I always wanted to be a lawyer, but life took a turn, and I didn't pursue my happiness with that. But that's okay, because I enjoy, other things, that I got in Christ Jesus. But I wanted to be a lawyer, and it's been my passion. That's why I be staying on top of these things. And that's why I have to also walk with the word of God, because Lord Jesus, the stuff you start to see out here. Now, this man been around, Bernie Sanders. He's been around since Martin Luther King time, out there with movements and, radicalness and things of that nature, whatever. See, America government, the old school, I'm not saying the younger people. Now, the younger people, they probably heard stories when they was in school, college, whatever. If you at least about, let's say, the ones now who coming up that's acting a damn fool. Well, you got some old ones out there, but I'm saying, like, if you already in your career with politics now, and you've been here for a while, like those like Jasmine Crockett, her age, it should be now people sitting in those seats in lawmaking and making decisions with laws. They should be no more than 40 and up. 40 and up. I would say 40 to give them like at least up into their 70s to stay in Congress or work in Congress or whatever like that. But these lifers, These lifers in Congress, they are thieves. They are just there to be a freaking nuisance. They are there to destroy society. Because Bernie been acting like this for quite some time. These are decades of children, a generation of children that follow Bernie's Marxist, socialist behavior. I mean, ideas. It's just crazy. He's a liberal. He's so liberal till it turned into being a Marxist. And that's the same thing is what Kamala Harris is or whatever. They come up in school, they try to find themselves a place in the world. They want to overthrow the government. They want to change things. Oh, this person is evil. This person is doing that. This person is doing. They don't see themselves. They just tear up shit. Okay, they are nothing but troublemakers in society. They just a nuisance. They destructive. They crazy. They want to tear down something that they didn't work hard to build. All they do is tear down. They're not happy. Bernie ran for presidency, I don't know how many times. Independence. Him, and there's another one. He was on a station with the Pearson guy. They was going at each other, and his hairdo looking all crazy. He's very radical too. He's very radical. And he's a black man, and he's been trying to run for, these kind of people that have been lifers and politician lifers that just been in the spotlight, and they just been doing nothing but just being radical about everything. And one is attacking things on the basis of race. The other one's attacking things on social injustice and other nonsense. Anything he could just jump himself into just to get a name out there and just to pull some souls to go to hell with him. Because that's exactly what he's doing, fishing for souls. So I say, pray for your children. You have to pay attention to your children in conversations on politics. You have to listen to their heads sometimes. Where they going, in what direction? You got to give them some redirection, maybe. That's what we tell our babies when we see them in the classroom, in areas they going in a certain area in the classroom where they're not supposed to be at the time. And you have to redirect the child.
So this is more of my speed than the suburban rural place.
You know, I'm just saying and stuff like that, you just got some people out here that are just not being careful. They don't talk to their children, and they left them out there in the world just to teach, just drop them off and just let them, oh, my child going to school. But I would be questioning a lot of things about things that being taught in their classrooms, and that's when you're supposed to be involved. By the time they get in high school and junior high school or whatever like that, it's like you give them more space, more privacy, more independence. But when they still very very young, like most of the information that I'm starting to recollect is information I got when in my earlier years. And then as I got experience in the world, then I start to see it in a broader picture. And I get a broader understanding of it. This is nothing I got in a vacuum. It would this this started since I've been a child. I paid attention to everything that was going on in my world, of exploring it, my family life. That's my stories. That's the beginning. I told you about my faith. Of course, I was given a foundation in Christ at a very early age. In my life, my family were Christians. And of course, my mother was Catholic. Well, she chose that. But even though she was born, she was a Christian, but she was more happy at being in the cathedrals, than in the black church. I would say she didn't like the noise. I already explained that. Some people like the quietness of Jesus. They like to hear his story in a quiet way. So anyway, um, I'm just saying it's just crazy that people don't have conversation with their children when they're young, and that's just the way the world is. That's why we have holidays. Like I said, we celebrate those times of the year at the end of the year and Christmas, when we are closing the year and um settling whatever differences maybe we had with people, and coming home for Christmas, and stories that touches the heart. I just heard that Hallmark was called. I was, what the hell happened to Hallmark? Hallmark is a landmark in America, and I think stop changing the names. And when I see these names, especially that have been around for a long time, start changing, we need to start questioning that. Who's running these businesses? Who's changing the name of these stores and everything? Like Hallmark. I love Hallmark. It's just a memory. It's a story behind Hallmark. Everything has a story behind it for every American, and I don't know why we not paying attention because we got Marcuses, crazy people sitting in our politicians making deals with overseas and doing things with all of these other politics globally with people and starting these movements of Marxism in the world and stuff. And this is not cool. And that's why I said a lot of we missed a couple of generations because this should have ended a long time ago. This man old as, like I said, been out there since Dr. Martin Luther King time doing movements. Been caught up in all of this political climb. I mean radicalness. He's been doing this stuff for years. Martin Luther King time. Since Martin Luther King time, Bernie Sanders been out there, hippie-ish or whatever you want to call it. And that's what the Democrat Party. That's what they breed. They breed these radical people. And then it got so radical that then they started bringing in people with socialist Marxist ideas because that's what it would lead to. They radical leftist liberal ideas will turn into socialism and communism. And then they get trapped in that and they angry and they mad and they kicking and they scratching, they screaming and everything. Some more, and they're going to be turned up even more. They're going to because they know they never lived that before. They lived in capitalism all their life and always was given an opportunity to change their status of their lifestyle. They could change their status. They could move up. They could do a job that will pay them more money and they can get that luxury or whatever they want in life. They will change their market, look for where the money is, and they will move on. But when you become in a socialist, communist society, you don't. There's no movement at all. You stay at your level. It's called socialist, well, mostly communist. Everybody got to eat on a certain day, or this is what we given a certain amount of food on this day. Everybody, whether you rich, poor, whatever, everybody's going to be at the same level of eating. And that does not work in society because it says in the book, I'm not feeding somebody that don't work. And the word of God says if you don't work, you don't eat. So that's not going to work in this world. And that's why we Christians in America, because we follow the truth. Okay, we follow the truth, and we follow the truth, the way, and the light. Okay. And people come and deceive you and just tell you anything, you better be opening your mind to read things and try things in the spirit and know if it's true or not, or if it's right, and you don't get following somebody down a path of destruction or following them to hell. You know, people just pumping any goddamn thing into your head. And that's why I say ain't nothing changing. God is the same God today, yesterday, and forevermore. All this stuff was here before. And America is ahead of the game. They had socialist movements like this before. They had these kind of things they call communism when they had movements coming up in the 60s, okay? When they had the black liberation groups. And then they had, before that, they had the Pan Africanism. That's Jesse Jackson. Black people, Pan Africanism, Marcus Garvey, and all that bullshit. Okay. Everybody had it some time in their generation, socialist, communist movements, okay? They're going to change everything. And that's why King didn't belong around them. He was fighting the right fight, but the thing is he had the wrong people around him. He had the wrong people like Bernie Sanders. These people was looking for movements to change the government. They were looking for movements like being communists and socialists. But having people like this attached to you, they gonna make you think that you the leader of the communist socialists when you trying to change the law, when you trying to fix the law, but they trying to overturn the government. And they'll join your movement. That's why I don't do movements. That's why I don't join these groups. I walk alone because I move with Jesus. I don't move with groups because you want to know who's close to you. These people get to you. They use you for influence. They use you for whatever political game they playing. Like Bernie Sanders. He been doing this shit for years with the Marxist socialist shit. And he joined all the movements out there. Okay? With his liberal ways. But it's funny that Bernie ain't never been dragged off being a senator, and even not to be running for presidency. Bernie knows how to pull your asses in. He's been a professional at this, to how to find the socialist, crazy ass Marxist people. So that's why he pumped that shit to you so you can come, so they know who the fuck y'all are. It's a way to, you can say, wheel them out. America is ahead of the game. They know about these socialist movements and Marxism. It be pumped into these kids from when they go to college and they in school, and they got these professors, these philosophers pumping and indoctrinating them instead of really giving them, teaching them. You see, they already started. Now they trying to start with activism with children. Why they still learning in high school or middle school? No, 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 no. Even earlier than that, when Renee Good got killed, her son was in one of those activist, liberal, crazy ass, you know, organizations, schools. He was going to a school like that. They know how to prey on the weak. They know how to go after people they know not covered with Jesus. They know they don't have no faith. They could pump any goddamn thing with them, and they would just go right along with it and move you right into the destructive, dangerous path. Because that's how they out there. And the people like Bernie Sanders, like I said, he been around since dirt. And all this stuff that's coming with this, people talking like Zoran Mondani, his generation, and they saying young people are impressed by. Of course they are. They stupid. They stupid. They young. They impressionable, and they easy to influence. That's what Charlie Kirk was out there trying to pull some of them out of the mess. They were following destructiveness, people using civil rights and all this other. They will move. They will use any movement there is to hop on and then say and include their movement in there. That's why you gotta be very, very careful with that, because Bernie Sanders, you could probably like some like Van Jones just jumped off the ship. Like, yo, 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 this shit ain't right. No socialist, communist, Marxist shit. He got out the way. He was like, yo, we come on over here now. We staying on, we ain't doing that. And some of them over there, yeah, yeah, yeah. And being stupid and ignorant. I don't know what the hell going on with them if they can't see that. But they just looking for a name, and they looking for the attention, so that the more they get, the more they gonna think they're gonna sit in them seats. But that's not gonna happen. You're fired. You're getting fired, okay? You're getting fired. You're not. They wait until after the midterms, wherever the election's going to be. And these people are gone. They gone. These jazz men, they just a distraction. They just trying to find something to do right now. But they fired. Ain't nobody listening to them. Maxine Waters, you're out. So are you, Al Green. So is Jasmine Crockett. We know Mondani gone. Okay, his ass is on the slippery slope right now, but they just don't want to. They got to keep the public safe. But we know Ilan ain't coming back. Her ass ain't gonna stay there. Then on top of that, all these people that I just pulled out to you, Brandon Johnson, he out, Fritzer, he's out. They not going to be around for another term. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. These people are gone. And the socialist Democrats people are no longer going to be giving all that attention. Like, let me take Black America back to Let me take Black America back to civil rights, okay? When civil rights was coming up, like I told you,
Yeah, the traffic went down. All right. Huh? Well, when you come down. Okay.
that's my sister and yeah, so the what I'm saying again is that America is ahead of the game. Black America, we remember the civil rights movement. Sometimes it's good to see history so you don't make the same mistakes, right? So what happened is that when the civil rights movement was going on, like I said, there was other movements going on. There was the Black liberation groups. There was the Pan Africanism. There was also um, the Black Panthers. You had the Black Panthers, and then you also had Martin Luther King movement with the civil rights, and then you also had the Nation of Islam, and you also had what other maybe other groups that was out there talking about social change, social injustice, everybody riled up, everybody getting all crazy. They know what they doing out there. They know exactly what they doing. These Somalians and all these new immigrants that's trying to still stay here in the United States, and they trying to push their ideology, push they protest their religion, and everything else like that's gonna stay. Like, hey, if one of y'all get fucked up out here, we ain't still making that shit no martyr here. Your name ain't going up as a martyr because you know what the fuck you was doing. These people, like Dr. King, whose life was laid down and slain for his path of righteousness, he was somebody from here. He was somebody that was really trying to work within the law. He was somebody that was really trying to fix the law. Okay? He wasn't out here to try to do anything to destroy the American government. It just seemed that way at the time because it was just so many other movements going on saying so many different things. So they figured, hey, he's the one people listen to the most, King, because that's the black man. Of course, Black America, as far as for white America, that's the kind of black man they loved. So that's the why they realized they know they did something wicked. And then on top of that, they had to find who was the leader of all the socialists, the black. And then after that, because first they took down Malcolm, because he was more radical. So they took him out first. Then they came for Martin because the climate was still it was getting hot on the block because when he started talking about the reparation parts and all that other stuff, see, there was some people that were just really criminals that wasn't a part of it for nothing else but to be criminals. And then you had the people that were really in it for to get the help they needed. And then it was people that just attach themselves to movements. That's why I don't do organizations, because you might be about it for real, and everybody else, some people just there just for the influence and just for the money and just to get the name and all that other stuff, and they not there for the same thing as you, and they there to use the movement as a criminal, to be a criminal like Judas was, a thief, a murderer and a thief, if you really look at it, because he well, a traitor, put it that way. Yeah. So you really got to be careful about who you follow out here, what movements you follow, and what your children listening to. Pray over your children. Educate your children about social change and justice. Just tell your children just to listen and do the right thing. And if it don't sound right to you, don't do it. Walk away. Don't be a part of it. Don't stay in the tents of the wickedness. Don't do it. Okay? Or you will become a part of it. Don't hang with crowds. Try to, you have a friend, whatever, one person or two people that you cool with or whatever, that's cool. But a whole bunch of friends, being a part of a whole organization, oh, hell to the no. Because you can't see your enemies. Okay, you don't know who the hell your enemies are. But I'm just saying, America is still on time. America, they on to this stuff with these social change groups that come out of these universities, colleges, and the young people being pumped up with this shit and doing crazy shit and throwing, bombs and saying Akbar and getting these poor kids. It's going to be some innocent bloodshed. It's just going to happen the way it's going to go down. you're going to hear, and people like myself, we not going to hear it because I'm so, wrapped up, tied up, entangled in Jesus that he going to keep it away from my sight, away from my everywhere. Anywhere I go, I ain't going to see no nonsense going on, no chaos going on because God going to keep it out my way. But those people that want to be all nosy and I'm only way I'm going to see it is when it's on the news. That's the only time I'm going to see it because I ain't going to be around all that chaos. It's all peaceful right now here. Walk out, leave my door open and everything, and walk right back in my house, and it's safe. You know, I'm not living like that out there in the world. That's why I say you got to pray over your kids. You got to pour Christ into their life as early as possible, because the devil out there ain't playing. He just looking to snatch somebody's child up and use your child as a sacrifice to do his dirty deed, to do his dirty work. And play in your kids' head in those universities with those professors and everything else like that. That's how they be grooming them in, and that's how they get them when they in high school. You watch the basketball coach, you watch all that shit. You watch all the I mean, not saying your kids shouldn't have athletes and have a coach and everything, but don't just don't go without questioning shit. That's all I got to say. I don't care if they the pastor in the church, the this, that, and the other. You don't keep your eyes off of what they doing until they old enough and they strong and old enough to make better choices and decisions as an adult for themselves. But when they in your sight, keep them in your goddamn sight. They in your house, keep them in your sight. And that's all I got to say. Pray over your children. And when they get up and they out on their own and they doing what they got to do, then you got to, still pray for them. But you ain't got to be all up in their business. You can always call and just ask them, how y'all doing? I just checked on you. Things going on, blah, 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 blah. Let it go. Don't get all invasive or whatever. But anyway, I'm just saying, these Bernie Sanders been around since Stone Ages, since dinosaur days. They've been doing this shit. I don't know if he's somebody that just pulls them in, and so everybody can get in the public to know who they are. That's why he's so radical like that. He's like a trained radical, you know, person just to make sure get shit riled up. I don't know. America use people for all kind of reasons because this is America, and they got to find out who these creeps are that's creeping into this ongoing into our system here. Those in college, they kids, what they thinking, what they saying, how their kids are coming at you, what their kids are saying about you, how their kids are destroying our world, destroying this country. And that's why we like no more anchor babies. They can't stay in this country. And if they do become a baby that become anchor, they'll be adopted and raised in our values, and they won't be back to you until they're an adult. And you can get all that smoke. You can catch all that smoke, okay. But other than that, we're gonna keep them young and we're gonna keep them raised in our values, our culture. And when they get older, it won't depart. We'll let them go. It'll come back. They'll see the difference. So with that being said, just pray over your children's movement starts on campus. Let me see what I wrote here. Did I write anything? I say yes. These stupid movements always start in universities and colleges. It's the same bunch of students trying to find their place in the world, looking to belong to something and believing they're bringing social change. Next thing you know, they're joining these socialist and Marxist groups, listening to professors with radical philosophies who spend more time indoctrinating than educating. Then you have politicians like Senator Bernie Sanders encouraging that mindset. Bernie's been around since the days of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. civil rights movement. And to me, he still acts like he's on a college campus trying to start another movement. We all know Bernie in America. That's just my opinion. Okay, so I've been watching y'all, and you got to pay attention too. And I'm bringing you this stuff to you to know. I know some get in the chat, they say some things, but I ignore those people. I can't waste too much time on you, all my energy on you. I got to keep it moving. I'm moving in rhythm and time. I can't be here just giving you information and then getting interrupted because somebody needs to hear this. So with that being said, this is Casey McDaniel that speaks. You can hit that like button on your way in or on your way out. And if you missed this video, you can always go back and watch the replay. And it's your first time to my channel, welcome to the Casey McDaniel Speak channel. I hope you like what you hear, like, and you can also share. And I would like for you to subscribe. So hit that, bell. So when I do come on, you'll get the notification. With that being said, have a blessed rest of the evening. Peace.